President Donald Trump says his Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is heading to Saudi Arabia amid an investigation into the disappearance of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. President Trump made the comment to reporters at the White House and added that his top diplomat may travel to other countries as needed. He had earlier announced Pompeo's trip in a post on Twitter and said he had spoken to Saudi Arabia's King Salman about Khashoggi.
Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who has been critical of the Saudi government in his reporting, disappeared after entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. Turkish officials believe he was killed by a 15-member assassination squad, and they claim to have video footage of the slaying.
I just spoke with the King of Saudi Arabia, who denies any knowledge of what took place with regard to, as he said, his Saudi Arabian citizen. I've asked, and he firmly denied that, I've asked Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to immediately get on a plane, go to Saudi Arabia, go to other places if necessary, which he probably will, but with regard to this, go to Turkey if necessary. The king told me that Turkey and Saudi Arabia are working hand in hand very closely on getting to the bottom of what happened.
U.S. President Donald Trump is caught between a rock and a hard place in his home country. Republican and Democratic lawmakers alike have demanded firm action by, among others, tough measures to block military sales to Riyadh if the allegations over Khashoggi are proven. There was already mounting concern over civilian deaths caused by a Saudi-led military coalition in Yemen's civil war, and some lawmakers have said Washington should act, but President Trump is firmly opposed to this. President Trump said he spoke to King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud for about 20 minutes about Khashoggi, who disappeared after entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. And that it sounded like neither the King nor Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman had knowledge of the incident.
Afro-Middle East Centre researcher Ebrahim Deen joins us via Skype to discuss the shifting political sands between Washington, Riyadh and Ankara. Ebrahim, thank you so much for joining us on The Globe, and a very good evening. Now, the situation must be affecting relations between Turkey and Saudi Arabia worse than before. The two states took opposite sides regarding Saudi-led blockade of Qatar since 2017. Can it get any worse?
I don't think it can get much worse, specifically in terms of the fact that both took opposite sides of Qatari blockade. I think what will irk Turkey is the fact that this killing has been committed on Turkish soil. And what has irked Turkey over the past weeks has been the lack of cooperation with Saudi Arabia. I do, however, think that the Turks will try to use the situation to benefit themselves. So I think that relations continue to be distant between the two. I do think that unlike previously, Turkey now has some hand in the back as well. Some cards in the back as well. It won't be as bad as it was, or Turkey will have some flexibility in the relationship.
Now, President Trump said on Monday that he is sending Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to meet with Saudi King Salman. Is this some kind of PR exercise, or are these genuine efforts at resolving the Khashoggi matter?
I think it's more an attempt to respond to American pressure from within the Senate and Congress. They've unleashed or signed a letter endorsing the Magnitsky Act, which has now obligated Trump to investigate the Khashoggi killing. Also, there's going to be a vote on arms sales to Yemen, for example, which will likely fail now. Trump, in an attempt to weaken this impetus or allay fears, has sent Pompeo to Saudi Arabia. This is very unlikely to do anything. It's more an attempt by the Trump administration to deal with the pressure, especially since Trump, sees Saudi arms sales as a key cog in his effort to try and grow the American economy, and because Trump is very, Jared Kushner, Trump's son, is very close to Mohammed bin Salman, and so in recent days we have seen Donald Trump talk about rogue elements in the regime that are responsible for whatever has happened to Khashoggi. So Trump, in a sense, is now already starting to reuse the Mohammed bin Salman position.
Now, Saudi Arabia was meant to be the Middle East catalyst to rally an alliance against Iran, to make peace with Israel, take on the clerical establishment in his own country, and to help to crush ISIS at home and abroad. Is this still on the Saudi agenda in light of the latest developments?
I think all the fighting ISIS is making peace with Israel and the containing Iran. Those are still on the Saudi agenda, and that's the reason the Trump administration or many Western countries, especially, are so close to the Saudis and are trying to actually contain the fallout. In terms of the clerical establishment, we are seeing this darker side, and we have been seeing this darker side. And this does, hopefully, pressure on the regime to try and open up a bit more, especially in terms of jail disarrangement. But it shows that, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, will do virtually anything to accede to the throne. And so it is worrying our concerning side of Saudi domestic and foreign policy going ahead. I mean, Jamal Khashoggi wasn't a new player in the bloc. He's a seasoned journalist and a seasoned insider in the regime, who knows our norms of these, embassies and work. He worked in the embassies in Washington and London. And so his killing kind of shows that Mohammed bin Salman has changed these norms, of how Saudi behavior is, which, isn't very good for, both domestic Saudi politics, but also regional Saudi politics.
Now, in terms of the possibility of a threat from Saudi Arabia with regards to raising oil prices, if sanctions are imposed on them, are we likely to see something like that taking place?
I don't think so. I think the Saudi Arabians, it's just a threat made by Saudi regimes, but I think the Saudi Arabians are too scared of the Trump administration to do something, because if the Trump administration resolves to sanction Saudi Arabia, but more, or criticize Saudi Arabia more, or take a more balanced stance in the Qatari blockade, it will severely harm both Saudi foreign policy or Saudi aspirations and Mohammed bin Salman's, ascension to the throne, which American support is critical for him to ascend to power.
Now, can Turkey and Saudi Arabia work out the current stalemate and reinvigorate their warm ties?
I think they'll be able to cooperate in the investigation. I think, though, that, the Saudi interests and Turkey interests in general are very different regionally. And so, ties will always be, or at least in the short to medium term, distant, unless, of course, we see a sea change in Saudi foreign policy. Currently, the Qatari blockade is one of the biggest issues in the region. And Turkey and Saudi Arabia have directly opposing sides of it. Also, the containment of Iran, Turkey and Saudi Arabia have directly opposing views on this. So, these issues will continue to ensure that the relationships won't be very close anytime soon.
In terms of the investigation that both sides have stated that they are going to work together to try and find out or ascertain exactly what took place or what happened, are we likely to see an outcome very soon?
I think in terms of the investigation, the Saudis are trying to, in a sense, contain the blow. And, in recent days, Saudi Arabia has talked about, being carried out by rogue elements in the regime. So they're trying to insulate Mohammed bin Salman. But, in saying so, the Turks are unlikely to go with the Saudi line unless, they benefit in some ways or they, attain some of their interests. Because, as the news has credibly come out, Turkey does have audio footage of the interrogation, torture, and murder. They do have video footage. And, these facts, if they are put out in the public, will severely hamper Saudi Arabia's quest, especially Mohammed bin Salman's, aspirations as the Saudi reformer.
Ebrahim, thank you so much for joining us. We'll leave it there for now. That was Afro-Middle East Centre researcher Ebrahim Deen joining us via Skype.